up, brother? Steve Aoki. Psyched to see you.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us on Mindfulness Marathon. Um, I saw you on Joe Rogan. Follow you on Instagram. You do some really cool stuff. And I know you have so much to share with everyone that's watching this. I mean, obviously you're a yogi, so there's a lot of yoga principles that you could share on behalf of people that are dealing with lots of stress, anxiety, people that have depression, mental issues, especially during COVID and all this crazy stuff that we're living in, and just anyone that wants to better their lives, and have like new practices to bring in. That's the other thing too, is I want to introduce new ideas like yogic fasting, which we'll get into, is a new concept for me. Let's talk about mantras. Like how does it affect the body? I know it's something that it's just like a principle from yogic principles. I don't know. Like, can you talk about the mantras a little bit?
Well, mantra is that's the fourth of the fasting. So there's 4 types of fasting. Maybe I'll just review them quick.
Yeah, exactly.
The first one was the fasting from food. The second one's incredibly powerful if you suffer with bad thoughts, and that is fasting from breath, which means you're doing yogic breathing. Requires very, very deep inhales and very, very long exhales. And you can do that either sitting, but you can do it even if you're a person who does martial arts, or if you do biking, or if you do some type of exercise, you can train yourself to get into this deep yogic breathing, and it literally can untie the knots of your body, or of your mind rather, and it can give you incredible endurance as well. Pranayama, or the yama means to like control the prana, or the life breath. This thing can give you incredible endurance without, running up and down stairs to develop a cardio. But not only that, it makes the mind incredibly peaceful. It helps the entire immune system, which is really important right now. Everybody's talking about an acidic body. You don't want an acidic body. You got to change your diet. Your health is getting collapsed by your acidity. If you want to change into an alkaline body, start to breathe deep. It goes immediately. It's very, very powerful. Just sit and breathe. And just do it for a minute. I'm not saying do it for an hour. Do it for 1 minute, or do it while you're doing yoga, or do it while you're, going for a jog. It's very super powerful. I would do it during, grappling and things like that. Really long, deep breaths. When I start to lose it and get worked up, that's when you make bad choices. That's when your immune system shuts down. That's when your mind locks up whenever there's fear. If you're suffering from fear, breathe deep. Anxiety, breathe deep, right? So anyway, that's the second one, the fasting of the breath. The third one is fasting of speech, like only speaking kindly, never finding fault with people, not criticizing. Oftentimes, I grew up just criticizing people for fun. It was fun to criticize people, And as I grew up, I realized I'm an asshole. I'm just sarcastic, snarky jerk, and I don't want to be that person. And I was funny. I would find fault with people. I'd make fun of someone. Everybody would laugh at somebody's expense. And I got some payback for that. I felt good about myself. Everybody laughed at my joke. But what was happening on my spiritual path was I started to realize I don't want to be that. I don't want to be cruel. And so when we start to fast from how we speak to people, that becomes powerful. So we encourage, we see good in people, we see people's greatness. That becomes a very, very powerful way of dealing with people in this world. So that's the third one. And the fourth one comes into mantras, and that is the fasting of movements, where we actually just sit with ourselves, and it's very powerful. And if you everything's a mantra. Like right now, I'm out here in these fields and meadows, and I hear the mantras of the birds, the sounds of the birds. Those are mantras. Or you hear the mantras of the creek. So those are like sounds that we hear. And the sounds connected to nature, the sounds connected to, sometimes people use positive affirmations, but there's a whole thing with Sanskrit mantras that can take you out of your body almost. So you still the body, you still the mind with your breathing, and then you chant some mantras. and the mantras affect your mind. Most people have some negative mantras in their mind already.
Absolutely.
Maybe their father was an asshole and their father said, you're worthless. Or you were called a slut in junior high school. Or you were called, you'll never amount to anything. And they just keep these mantras on, what's it called? Auto rewind, and keep playing them over and over. It's like a loop in the mind. I'm worthless. I'm good for nothing. Who would love me? I don't deserve this. And it doesn't serve them often. They're mantras that were given in childhood, and we hold on to them and we play them on a loop. So the yogis say, notice those mantras and let them go if they're not serving you any longer. Let them go. And then replace them. So the real powerful mantra we have is this one called a Maha mantra. Maha means great, just like this word Mahatma Gandhi means a great Atma, a great soul. So Maha mantra is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It's just simple words, but they're very powerful words. And it's hard to explain, but it's almost like if I say, if you've never had someone eat a banana, how do you explain a banana to someone? You can't. You got to say, you want to know what it is? Just eat the banana. So, but all I know is that the great souls of ancient India, they used this mantra, and they would say it over and over 108 times. And if you notice on those Indian malas, those beads you wear around your neck, Buddhists use those malas too. They chant this mantra 108 times, sitting still and just focusing in on that sound, and it becomes very powerful. That is a very, very another type of fasting, and that is fasting. It's the fasting that goes with stillness. So first we got to get rid of that negative talk in number 3 type of fasting, but then not just the negative. What is the positive now? Now we're going to start to add this next facet, which is you're adding not just positive sound, but transcendental sound that sort of takes you right out of the body. So again, it's Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And I chant that literally. I do that as a meditational practice 2 hours a day.
Wow.
Now it sounds like, who the hell wants to do that for 2 hours a day, right? But the only way I can explain that is like, if you've never jogged and someone says, man, you should try jogging. All right, I'll try it. Yeah, I jogged today. It sucked. Oh yeah? Try it 4 times. Try it, right? Because to anything, yoga, jogging, bowling, whatever it is, sometimes you really need to do it 5 times to realize, actually, I'm pretty good at this. Actually, I thought this sucked. This is pretty fun. Actually, I couldn't ride my bike up the hill. Now I get up that hill, no problem. Same thing with these mantras. It's just not, it doesn't appear as sexy because it's not like, oh, I'm biking down, I'm sweating, I mountain biked and went through the road. It's very subtle. Everything of this ancient culture is more subtle. It's more refined. Like, where are you going to go to the gym? You're going to go to your trainer and say, yeah, I want to work on my breathing today. They're going to laugh at you. We want to work on my abs and my butt and my biceps. It's crazy because our concept of health has got us in trouble. What good is my big biceps if I feel trapped in my body, right? I want my body to work for me, not against me.
Yeah.
And I'm a little older than you, but I remember the original Superman television series. If you look back at the 60s, Superman, the guy they had playing Superman, nowadays he looked like an average Joe. He didn't look muscular. He just sort of he'd almost look a little flabby. And then all of a sudden, in the 70s and 80s, when the Incredible Hulk became a TV show, everybody started bodybuilding. Arnold Schwarzenegger pumping iron, and you see a bodybuilder in your high schools, and every street corner had bodybuilders. And then we started realizing this isn't good for me. And then, I work with a lot of people who've really screwed up their body in the name of health, because it's these concepts of health that are more driven towards competition and ego. And these are the things the yogis are trying to get rid of: competition and ego. And the ego is the biggest, it's a bigger pain in the neck for me than my like hamstrings and my lower back. My ego's that's my big Himalayan peak to climb. Whew.
Amazing, amazing, honestly. Now I'm glad that we went into the 4 yogic fasting categories. Because when I thought about it, it was more about eating, but it is like, you know, there's the eating one, there's the
Breathing one.
breath.
The breathing one's number 2.
Yeah, and then number 3 is not
speaking.
Not speaking.
Or yeah, no, actually, it's speaking only kind things.
That's amazing.
And the 4 is the stillness, where you're just here, where you're just being with your mind. Some people just like to empty their mind.
Yeah.
Some people just like to hear the sounds. But the real thing they say is to really concentrate on the mantra in that stillness. And I think, if we want to be happy, which it's safe to say that we just want to be happy. I truly believe even the most horrible people in this world, they really just want to be happy.
Yeah.
And they think they're going to find it the way they're doing it. But if we really want to be happy, the yogis say, you have to have the mind peaceful.
Right.
There can't be any happiness unless the mind is like peaceful. And so a lot of our work in yoga is not really just to develop, to get ripped. It's really to create a peaceful mind so I can be at peace, whether I'm like right now in a beautiful meadow and it's peaceful, but I want to be able to take this into New York City, or I want to be able to be in the biggest reversal of my life and be peaceful. I want to be at the time of my death and be peaceful.
Wow. That's amazing. I think this can affect everybody, because just like you said, you want to take that peace wherever you are. Why yoga for you? Why do you think it's meant for everyone? Do you think it's like other people, a lot of people can join in on it and benefit their lives?
Well, first of all, Steve, I want to just appreciate you and all that you do and all the people that you touch, because you bring a lot of joy to people's life. And I think that's a big success. It's a new metric for success, and bringing joy to people's life in my book is a great way to it's a great barometer. So good job, brother.
I appreciate you. Thank you. I appreciate that comment.
Yoga is a system, if you don't mind, I'll just zoom out for a second before we get into some detailed thing. The Vedic or the ancient Indian narrative of reality is that we don't have a soul, but we are a soul. You don't have some, when I grew up in a Catholic family, my mom said, you have a soul. Your soul goes to heaven. The yogis of ancient India say you are a spiritual being and you have a body. And the body's not you, because it's always in flux. It's always changing. You are the observer of that body. So the goal of life, they say, is to know the genuine soul underneath the pretense, underneath the fakeness that we put out there, underneath the ego, and then try to reconnect with source. And that's actually what yoga means. Most people, even in America, don't even know. Even great yoga teachers don't know this. I was lucky enough, after me from my old days in the band, I took off to India, became a monk for 6.5 years. But the word yoga means to tie together, and it's supposed to tie spirit with source. And even with all I can do handstands, I can put my foot behind my head, I can do all types of crazy things with my body. But I just want to set the scene, that's not the goal of what we're doing. The goal is to feel connected in a world where a lot of people feel disconnected. You could be around lots of people and feel alone. You could feel sad, and people struggle with this thing that they have. The yogis say that this thing that we're driving around with is called the material body, and it's not you. But you got to take care of it because you drive around with it. It's like renting a vehicle. I'm not that vehicle. I have it. And so it's my duty to take care of it, to cleanse it, to detoxify it. But what happens is we're born just like blind. We were born, we don't even know. It's almost like someone gives you a computer, but you're from like some simple tribe from some island, and you like, what the hell is this thing? A table? No, this thing could do so much. You can communicate with the world. You can write essays and novels, but you're just using it as like a table, the place to put your warm drink. So the body's like this. It's such a fascinating thing. And the ancient yogis knew this, that you got to take care of this thing. You got to cleanse this thing. And it's not just with the you are what you eat stuff, although we'll talk about that too, but it's about your thoughts and what you're thinking about on a regular basis. Because this is what ties me into you, I think, in a deeper way now, many years later in our reconnection, is that this whole brain science, which is, people are looking for this now. Why? Because people are suffering from stress, from anxiety, from depression, and these things are epidemic. You know, anxiety attacks. This isn't a weird thing. This is what like successful people have, so-called successful people have. They struggle with anxiety. So yoga, I find now, is not just like a good thing. It's like a necessity just to cope with the insanity that we created. What do you think about that, Steve?
Wow, like when you really break down the principles, I like when I would do yoga positions, I don't think about that. I'm like, okay, how much more can I stretch down here, my legs? I want to get more. You know, I don't think about what you're talking about. And it changes.
That's
why
that, you know, and that's the thing about every facet of the yoga culture. Now in the West, because we're a very physical culture, we isolate the physical practice when we say like this is yoga. But if you understand the bigger picture or the bigger meal, you'll see that the physical practice, as healthy as it is like a condiment of a much greater meal. It's like the salt, or it's like the ketchup, but it's not the meal itself. The meal is changing the way you view the world. Because if I can change my mind, I can change my whole reality.
Yeah.
Right? I can change my body. I can still be a jackass. I can change my body and still be a narcissist. I can change my body and still be full of myself. But if I can change my mind and the way I move in this world, the way I speak to people and the way I connect with people, that's going to change my whole reality. It's going to change my head altogether. It's going to make me look at depression as something that is not me. It's just something that's going on in this subtle body. It's still a body. The mind is still a body. It's just a subtle body. I can't grab it, but I can observe it. And that's a huge relief to know that I'm not my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, I love how my whole head's shifting from, you know, like you said, like thinking about it differently instead of when I'm doing the stretch, something about, I think about the physical practice. Really, it's starting from how I view the world, how I view myself. Like,
Sure.
you know, everything starts from up here rather than like, you know, okay, if I could stretch more, if I can get this position down more, it's just going to be better for me. But really, I'm just like flipping the whole like thing upside itself. You know.
Yeah, and you know there is a whole thing to it, because I know like yourself, or like most people grow up in the West, it's like everything physical is competitive. If I did sports, if you did track, I mean, right down to youth soccer, it's competitive. Whereas you have to go into a very strong physical practice sometimes, yet you have to give up that competitive nature where I'm trying to one-up myself. I'm trying to even compete with myself sometimes. People compete in parenting. It's so ridiculous. And it's that competitive edge that ruins, it just creates pain in the mind. And so, yeah, I think just the stretching is one thing and the breathing is one thing. But a good yoga teacher will take you through this process where you actually have to do this stuff and not look around and not try to be like, how strong am I today? Or even better yet, just like, can I just be with my breath? Can I just be with my breath and keep my mind focused? And even when I'm doing something very difficult, can I be as if I'm in meditation? That is a great practice, because what's happening is you're in an incredibly comfortable place. I got my both feet wrapped behind my head. I got my arms wrapped around my back, or you're holding Warrior 2 for, 10 breaths. Can I be in this incredibly tough place where it's burning sensation, yet can I feel peaceful? What a useful practice as we walk off of our mat and back into our world? Can I be peaceful in chaos?
Wow.
What a great answer.
Wow. It changes everything for me because when you talk about competition, I definitely compete with myself.
Yeah.
I can stretch more today and I'm going to feel the burn because I know that I can get deeper. Or like the cold plunge, I was talking with Wim Hof. I want to beat my last time. I want to hold my breath even longer. I'm like, because my brain is always competitive.
Yeah.
This is enlightening just to myself to really ask myself that question. Can I just be with my breath and not having to have these competitive thoughts of like, I got to beat my last score. I got to do this. I got to, it's a different context altogether.
Totally powerful. Totally powerful.
I love the basis of yoga that you're talking about. It's a lot for me to learn actually. But yogic fasting, can you talk about that? This is a new term for me as well.
Well, when you said when you said all that you're concerned about in the brain, I'm sure we wanted to. I'm assuming that we care about the brain because we care about one, sharpening discernment and intelligence. Two, creating a healthy brain that doesn't get resentful or depressed, which is epidemic right now. So I thought this might be practical and relevant to pretty much anyone growing up in this crazy age we live in. There's 4 types of yogic fasting. And if you apply any one of them to your life, you can radically change your life. And the first one is just, like I said earlier, you see the body not just as like, I'm a food machine. I'm just a food consumption machine. But this body is almost like a really incredibly expensive vehicle that you're driving around in. And you have to put the explicit oil in there, the appropriate gas in there to make this thing work correctly. And also, you don't overwhelm the body with food. Sometimes we just eat for the sake of eating. We're sitting around, we're watching stuff, and it's addictive. I'm not talking about heroin. I'm talking about Doritos or anything that you're just putting on your mouth at a regular basis when you're not even hungry. So the yogis say, you really want to be sharp? Stop eating breakfast. Make your first meal at noon.
Wow.
This is actually becoming, all the science for this is all finally coming up, but I've been doing this for 30 years now. They call it intermittent fasting. This was just called yogic fasting. But intermittent fasting is from the time you go to bed, you stop eating. And then you don't eat your next meal and people can, there's a window where you do eat. It's 6 hours. Some people do 4 hours. One of my students is doing 2 hours only. So within that time of day. And the interesting thing is you'll realize you don't even need that much food. I've got friends. Anyway, I won't get into it. But fast. I've done 21 days of juices. 21 days of juices, doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu and Ashtanga yoga every day.
Wow.
It's not like I'm laying on my back crying, desiring a pizza. You don't even miss it. Not only do you not miss it, but you feel like I could run a marathon right now.
How many days, though, before you get to that point? Because you got to go a couple of days where you're just dying to eat, right?
Well, I think it depends. If you're doing intermittent fasting on a regular basis, meaning you're skipping breakfast on a regular basis, to push that first meal back to 2 o'clock becomes very easy. Then on the next day, push it back to 4 o'clock. It even becomes easier. And then what happens is on the 4th day, you say, you know what? Now I'm just not going to eat anything but liquids. And you could have just fresh squeezed juices or water or soup or broth or something like that. And then you realize, now if you're eating a standard American diet and you just fast one day, you'll get a withdrawal symptoms of headaches. Yeah. You'll get by the way, I'm not a doctor. I'm not this stuff is just ancient teachings of yoga. I was a yogi. I grew up I lived in an ashram in my 20s, so this is it's something Western medicine is sort of like catching up with now. And there's a lot of efficacy in the principles, but you're never going to hear, at least, people talking about, I mean, we grew up with, you and me grew up with like people saying, you know, tricks are part of your balanced breakfast, fruit, toast, milk, trick. I was like, even as a child, I was thinking, we're going to eat all of that? How the hell are we going to eat all of that? And then I started to wonder why I was falling asleep in second period, is because your body's done nothing to deserve that food. It just woke up. And now you're going to shove more food in there. You got to see your stomach as like a little fire, and you want to put kindling on that fire. You don't want to dump a giant piece of, you know, oak log on that fire. You got to give it little bits. So you prepare that fire of the stomach with little bits of water, and then water starts to increase your digestion. Again, if you're used to a standard American diet, this is going to sound crazy. Of course, you can't miss breakfast. Trust me, after the first couple of days of skipping that breakfast and having your first meal, what time is it now? It's 5:30 Eastern time. So all I've had today was a smoothie. And I already went 13 miles on a bicycle and, you know, worked out this morning. So I'm not saying like I'm Superman, but it's a way when we overwork the body through too much eating, it ages the body. And the yogis,
it's like a myth, right? Like your body, like, you know, like you said, you bike 13 miles, and then, like, you know, in your head, you're like, I need energy. I got to eat.
yeah, energy is coming from another place. It's actually, I have friends that have fasted on water. You're not going to believe this if I tell you. Fasted on water for 2 years.
I don't believe it.
I can introduce you to him. He's incredible.
I mean, are you serious?
Yeah. The most I've ever done on water was 9 days. And I've done that twice.
Vitamins? Like, they must take vitamins. They must take some sort of.
You know what? The body's got, you know what? Here's the deal, man. Everybody's trying to sell us stuff. Just eat natural foods. It's all there. They're just trying to sell you stuff. Do you think the warriors, the gladiators, these, you know, Attila the Huns of the world were on vitamins and supplements? These guys are like real heroes. They're fighting with swords that most people can't even lift. You know?
Died at like 40.
Maybe. Well, there's also like plagues and stuff like that. But yeah, well, these yogis, not the yogis. You hear about the yogis' lives. It's unbelievable how long they live. Anyway, it's an interesting theory. And what I can say is about it, because here's the deal. I'm not going to teach something that I don't do. Like I said, like I've done juice fasting for 21 days more than 4 times. On day 18, I feel like I could run a marathon and still not be winded. That's a type of, I mean, that's why Joe invited me on the program. He wanted to know, like, how do you keep that endurance? And it wasn't because I'm not an athlete. I was like no athlete in high school. You know, I was like the small guy. I couldn't do anything. And, you know, I'm no athlete. I liked sports, but I wasn't good at them. But you get an edge. If you are born with athletic karma, this stuff will make you go through the roof.
Right. So you got to kind of train yourself to this point, right? You have to, like you said, like you start at 2, then you go to 4. Because I actually have a lot of friends do the intermittent fasting, and they've dropped a lot of the bad fats off their body.
Sure.
And yeah, they still maintain energy. I think it's that transition period that's tough.
It's 2 days. 2 days of skipping breakfast.
Yeah. That's not as difficult when you say it like that. But what's the relationship with when you do this kind of fasting to the mind, to the brain, to mental health?
Well, it's one thing, you know, once I put one of my clients in Los Angeles on a fast, a 21-day juice fast, and this guy was successful in every way except his health. He was way overweight, and he shouldn't have been. And so we did 1 week of just clean, raw foods with him. And then on day 7, we're doing 3 weeks in total. On day 7, I started putting him just exclusively on fresh squeezed juices. And his wife called me at day 9 and said, "You got to take my husband off this cleanse." I said, "Why?" She goes, "I've never, ever seen my husband cry. And he cries every night." He's like, "Something's happening to him. I'm not sure it's good." I said, "Are you kidding?" This man has been burying emotions his entire life just to get by. He shoved it deep down. And this is the problem. This is what we do. We've got an issue, and I shove a donut in my mouth. I've got an issue, and I should take a shot of whiskey. I've got an issue. And after a while, I've medicated all my issues, but I've never dealt with my issues. So I said, this is the best thing that can be happening to your husband. He's actually releasing. You're not just releasing gross toxins, which is true, because we have toxins that are indigestible stuff in our digestive tract that we're holding on to. Not only do we clean those gross things out of the bloodstream, out of the cells, we're cleaning emotions out. Stuff is going to come up that is going to sort of shift your paradigm. So we're only on the first facet of fasting, and it's so powerful. You change what you put in your mouth, and you start to change everything about your body and your mind. This alone can protect you if you suffer from things like chronic acid reflux, which people are on medication. I've had students say, I don't have it anymore. I don't know what happened. This comes from eating on top of undigested food often. Anyway, like I said, my disclaimer is I'm no doctor. I just follow these simple principles. They're sort of this stuff is like a handbook of, an instruction manual to a machine that you purchase. You need the instruction manual, and we don't have it.
Right.
And I just grew up in a household where we're eating Pop-Tarts and Lay's potato chips. What am I supposed to do? I didn't know anything about fasting. Sometimes you got to go back to the old world to learn, ancient tricks that are very relevant and practical and useful, especially in this crazy world that we live in now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I didn't have hydrogenated oil back then. Yet there still was other types of toxins, in the atmosphere.
That's why when you talk about, these ancient tricks, that's these are tried and tested for generations after generations after generations. There's,
exactly.
And going back to what you're saying back in the day, there was no vitamins. People had to use their own resource of energy and how they ate or whatever they did with whatever they had without, what we have to deal with all the time with consumerism and people shoving things down our throats on what's healthy or what's not. And a lot of it is internal. We can do a lot of it ourselves. It seems that's why I'm doing this whole mindfulness marathon.
And I'm not one of these guys too, is trying to sell you some superfoods. You want to eat some superfoods? Find out what naturally grows in your area and eat that fresh. Find out, for example, there's a lot of berries where I live. And when it's berry time, me and my kids, we go out and we forage for berries. There's dandelions. We forage for dandelions. What most people call weeds are the healthiest things you can eat. And you don't have to import them and powder them and make them into pills. These are just people just wanted to make money off us. And it gets so frustrating after a while. And then given a title of a superfood and a superfood, just eat fresh whole foods. And if you have an ability, grow your own food. And maybe this pandemic is making us rethink about, just going to the store and buying stuff. And it's making us be with the people that we love and work with the land. And we don't know who knows what's going to happen in the food supply. Hey, let's plant some food. Most people don't even know where food comes from.
Yeah, true.
What do Brussels sprouts look like when they're growing? What do bananas look like when they're growing?
It's true. It's true. It's there's a large disconnect there, and I'm also learning a lot too, because I'm definitely the kind of person that takes tons of vitamins. I try all kinds of supplements and see which ones work. I'm like, oh, I got lion's mane here. I got tons of omega-3. I'm always trying to see different things that'll work. And
I'm not saying there's not ancient medicines as well.
Yeah.
And ancient rejuvenatives and restoratives. I think that could be also good additions to your life as well. I'm just saying when they're just trying to giving kids these Flintstone vitamins since childhood, they urinate them all out. I like eating foods and their whole foods. The medicinal mushrooms, that's a whole nother story, and it's a science also.
Right.
We've taken it. We've tried to just make it sort of just take it. But there's way that people that study Chinese medicine, they administer them. It's oftentimes not a free-for-all. You
Yeah.
know, all this stuff that we tend to think the people of the past were a bunch of idiots hitting each other with bones. And it's just not true. There were evolved cultures around the globe. And we think we're evolving and we're devolving. That's the truth of it. In language and arts and culture, because the whole thing about culture is it's supposed to make us more peaceful. That's what culture does. It's not just, culture just doesn't mean a gang of people together doing artistic things. The concept of a spiritual culture is meant to bring our consciousness higher and higher and higher. And so that's what sort of like, I feel like my contribution in this lifetime is like assisting to resurrect some of these ancient teachings, not by like preaching about them, but trying to put them on myself and trying to live them and apply them and try to be an example for my children or my community like that. And sort of try to change the world by trying to change myself.
Yeah, that's why I appreciate you, especially being part of this, because I look to you for that kind of that information, insight, and I mean, you always want to share. Ever since even back then, when I was a hardcore kid, listening to Shelter and listening, you like you're put here on this planet to share, you know, all the different insights that you're learning. I mean, like, you know, back in Shelter, I mean, I was a kid. I mean, like, you know, not to digress here, but when I was listening to Shelter, I was a teenager. I knew nothing about Hare Krishna or knew nothing about anything outside of hardcore and, like, you know, what the stuff I was growing up with. But, like, you know, you went out and you're like, okay, I'm going to do this band called Shelter. I'm going to talk about principles that you're learning, you know, outside the hardcore scene, and really brought a lot of awareness, a lot of like self-care practices, you know, like a lot of different things that I would have never thought of at the age of 16. So
you know what? It was I got lucky. I got exposed to cool stuff at a young age. Somehow in my junior high school, I started thinking about vegetarianism and veganism. These things just they were hard to find back then. Now it's like in the conversation, but I started coming to terms or I started struggling with this idea of, hold it a second. I love animals. I have a dog. I have a cat. I love them. Yet I'm eating these ones. I can't wrap my head around this. And there was not a lot of books about it. There was not a lot of vegan restaurants or things like that. But I was like, am I creating like the mind of a sociopath where I can like murder someone and then take my wife out to dinner or something like that? So I was thinking, oh, wait a second here. There's something wrong. There's something disingenuous with this behavior. And so, but I was, as an Italian kid growing up, it's like all I knew was meatballs. But I made a vow when I was about 16. I said, when I grow up and move out of my mom's house, when I learn how to cook, I'm going to cook for myself and it's going to be all vegetarian. And what I did was I ended up in the streets of New York City and I met these Krishna guys who were all vegetarian, and they gave me they turned me on to, oh, you don't have to just eat pizza and Coca-Cola to be a vegetarian. There's like cultures of food that cook exquisite, healthy vegetarian food. And that's what turned me on to the Krishna guys. And then from there, I started studying ancient Indian medicine, Ayurvedic medicine. We tend to think like we created, like medicine, even we like to even give credit. Oh yeah, Hippocrates, he was the father of medicine. That's bullshit. Medicine's existed all over the world for millennia. Ancient Chinese medicine, ancient Korean medicine, ancient South American medicine, ancient Indian medicine. We are so blinded by a Greco-Roman narrative of how we, of how the world is. Anyway, going off on a tangent here, but that was my introduction. That was my introduction to Eastern spiritual thought, into yoga, into health, and into Ayurvedic medicine, which has got me our conversation right now.
And this is like the whole point of why I'm doing these talks is like when life gives you that crazy turn, here are some ideas and principles that you can apply to yourself, and so helpful.
Yeah, and you know they're out there, and I find that the more you start to care about them, you start to find them. They're out there. The information age, you got like 99.9% useless information sort of clogging up our skull.
Yeah.
But there is information out there, and we're just sometimes a Google search away. Truthfully, we're just a desire away. And I'm fully convinced that the universe reciprocates with our desires, both good and bad. But if you have a real desire to connect, become grounded, look towards light instead of darkness, I mean, there's dark things out there. You know, people say, no, it's all good. It's all good. Not all good. Human trafficking, not good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think when you desire, I want more light in my life, or I have to cut this out of my life. I've been drinking heavily. It hasn't served me. It's ruining my life. It's ruining my relationships, whatever it is. When you can get that focused and say, I need something different. And when you start to sort of like reclaim, I'm not a thing for the yogis where I'm sick of trying to pretend to be somebody I'm not. I'm a spiritual being and I need more spirit in my life. Once you make that declaration, magic happens. Magic happens.
Raghunath, what's the challenge? I'd like to activate. I'd like to kind of share with the people watching a challenge from what they just saw. Something that they can do in their lives. Is there like an activity you recommend or anything that they can try?
I give you 4.
Okay.
First one is, if they want, they could do their fasting till noon. See how that feels for 5 days.
That's pretty simple.
Pretty simple. Fast till noon. See how it feels. Is it working for you? Is it not working for you? If it works for you, go with it. Drink water. Drink plenty of water and stuff like that. Stay hydrated. But fast till noon. See how it feels.
So fast till noon is 1.
Yeah. Number 2.
What time should they stop eating?
What's that?
At what time should they stop eating at night? Is there a certain time as well, or?
Well, the idea is, at least with like this, what they call it now, intermittent fasting, is that the idea is, I definitely, if you eat after 8 o'clock at night, watch out, because this is when, there's a whole nother conversation, but there's different energies through the course of the day. These nighttime energies, things become very addictive. It's a dark energy. That's why if you stay up late at night, which is understandable. I was in a band. I stayed up all night. But that's why you sort of get I got the midnight munchies.
Oh, yeah.
Of course you do. No one should be hungry at midnight. You should be asleep at midnight. Your body should be naturally eliminating toxins from the body. And then when you're up early for meditation, But when we've created unnatural cycles, and therefore we're up till midnight, we sleep till 10, we sleep till 11. I know I've done it. I didn't fall from some heaven, but I feel like we're works in progress.
Yeah, of course.
Work in progress. I don't beat myself up for the things I've done inappropriately. I just try to move forward. So number 2 is spend at least 3 minutes practicing deep inhales and long exhales, preferably through your nose. Long inhales, long exhales. Very powerful practice. See what it does for you. See how you feel. See if you can count to 10 on an inhale or 7 on an inhale. So it's like 3 times deeper than your normal breath. And you can just keep a little diary, like felt like nothing today, or felt okay today, felt good today. And you start to notice things when you make like little changes on a regular basis and then do them every day. That's how you're going to notice you're getting better at jogging, is you jog every day. You don't just jog once and I went to the gym, I look the same, The third one is powerful. Stop criticizing people. Spend a day. And we'll do this whole thing for 5 days.
Yeah.
For 5 days, you're going to fast from criticizing people. Matter of fact, you're going to go out of your way and say something kind about somebody. Go out of your way. What to speak of the people in your life that would do anything for you. Oftentimes we have people in your life would do backflips for me. I mean, my mom, I got a 93-year-old Italian mother. If I said, hey, Mom, I'm starving, I don't feel well, can you come up? She'd be on a plane here with like a bowl of spaghetti in her hand. That's how she works.
Yeah.
So there's people that would do anything for us. Let them know you appreciate them. So we're changing our voice patterns. If we find ourselves sarcastic, rude, cruel, brash, Stop criticizing and find good in others. That's number 3. And number 4 is to be still. Be still for 1 minute, and then try chanting that mantra. And you can put it on the screen if you're going to edit this, the Hare Krishna mantra. And practice just chanting that mantra for 1 minute and see what happens. And just see what happens every day. If 1 minute, and by the way, all these things like the breathing, if you feel like, hey, that was pretty good, then do it for 5 minutes. Do it for 10 minutes. Big deal. You breathe for 10 minutes. Big deal. You sit still for 10 minutes instead of 1 minute. Increase it every day and see what'll happen is things are tough and they're bitter and then they become sweeter. Yeah. Material life is the opposite. Things are they appear very sweet, but then they get, oh, what have I done? That's the famous mantra for the materialist, is like, I can't believe I just did that. Whoa, what was I thinking? You know, we want to do things that might be tough at the beginning, but have such a return on investment, you know, as we continue with them.
Incredible. Well, yeah, thank you.
That's your challenge, brother.
I like the challenges. I think they're pretty simple. I think we can all do them. I'm going to do it myself too. But yeah, that's incredible. Thank you. For real.
Hey, if all of your people can tag me, I would love to see everybody, if they film themselves doing it.
So
please tag me.
Make sure you guys tag him, tag Aoki Foundation, and try this out and see how you feel. See how you feel afterwards.
It's a game changer, man. It's a game changer. And then after this, and then if you want to experiment with an actual fast, you'll see magic happen to your body and your mind as well. Your strength, your endurance, everything. I do it every season. I go for a big fast.
That'll be the next time we talk. We're gonna get.
That's the next episode, brother.
Oh, because I want to do it myself, and I think I'm gonna need you to like send me an outline of what I need to do so I don't break down in the middle of it.
Yeah, I'll do it with you from across the country.
That'll be fun.
I'm serious, man. I love doing it.
And also, now I know what 108 means.
What's that?
Now going back to you talking about 108. Obviously, you know what I'm talking about when I say 108. Because I saw them play. You weren't in the band though, right?
I wasn't. We took them on tour. That tour, they came on tour with us. They were friends of ours.
We love 108. But now
a great band. And 108 is an auspicious number. It comes up again and again in numerology. So yeah, now you know. 108 beads on those malas.
Right. It all makes sense.
It's all come full circle, and it gets deeper. This rabbit hole goes so deep, you won't believe.
Awesome.
Okay, my friend. Thank you
so much.
Keep giving the joy to everybody, Steve. You're impressive.
Appreciate you. Yeah, you too as well, Raghunath. Good to see you,
my friend. Let's stay connected.
Okay, definitely.
Hare Krishna.